You might not have realized it, but funeral homes go under some of the strictest regulations of any industry today. Let's find out why on this morning's Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at Reflections, assisted living facility in Carolina Forest, across from its elementary school and behind Horry County State Bank. We're focused on the funeral home industry, and we're visiting with the licensed funeral director and embalmer, Richard Francis Neal, otherwise known as Rick. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning. Good morning, sir.
Thank you so much for coming in. What a big week.
It's early.
Yeah, it is early. 7 a.m.
Yeah, it's early.
Of course, River Talk just ended over there on the UPN or the CW21. Banana Jack Murphy. I was thinking about him early this morning as I was flying over here for your interview. A lot going on these days.
Oh yeah, a lot of things. A lot of busy.
Big week. You were in Columbia last week, I believe, last Wednesday.
Yeah, I went in for the South Carolina Funeral Directors Midwinter Conference.
Right. How was that?
Oh, it was great. That's when all the suppliers,
right,
casket, hearse, vault, chemicals, burial clothing, memorial books, everything.
Right.
All the suppliers get in there in the convention center.
Right.
And fill that place up. And of course, I took Bonnie, my wife, with me.
Sure.
She'd never been to one before. And she started going out there, and every one of the booths she would stop at.
Is that right? Yeah.
And they would talk and talk and talk and talk. And I told her, I said, listen, this is a big room.
Yeah.
We have 3 hours to get through here.
Yeah.
I said, if you stand and talk 20 minutes to each one of these, I said, we'll never get through. I said, so we've got to move. I said, just nod, grin your head, and I said, just keep going.
And you were doing some shopping, I know. I know you've got big plans. We want to talk about your next adventure, and the big venture, of course, we can't just yet because it's about to, we're in the underpinnings of getting ready to open. But, of course, you're shopping for lots of items up there, Rick.
Yeah,
what are some of the things that it takes to open a funeral home? Let's say you were opening funeral home A. What would it take?
Well, first thing, the state board, I went before the state board,
Right.
And talked to them about this. And, got all the requirements and everything.
And what does that mean, the requirements? What are some of the requirements you have to meet to open a funeral home?
Requirements. You have to have a chapel that will seat 100 people.
Okay.
You have to have a motorized hearse. That means you can't lease a hearse and just bring it in when you need it.
Right.
You have to have a hearse on premises.
Right.
You have to have an embalming room. You have to have the restroom.
An embalming room. What's that?
Where you take the body to be embalmed, or to be prepared for cremation.
Right.
Whatever the family, to wait till the family sees what has to happen. If it's someone from another country that's going to be shipped out,
right,
that's where the preparation of the body is done.
Right. Okay. So a lot has to, and funeral homes are heavily regulated.
Very, very heavily. Very heavily.
Jim Beaudry was with us a week ago today, last Monday, talking about Batesville.
Yeah.
Batesville caskets and about urns, and of course, I think he was in Columbia with you last week.
Yeah.
He headed up to Columbia from, and to hear him talk about the industry and all that goes into the Federal Trade Commission, the South Carolina Board, the group for licensing and overseeing to make sure that licenses are given to duly qualified and licensed professionals.
You have to have, now, when I went before the board, you have to have number for number everything to match. If you have a package price of something over here,
right,
a package price that you can get this, they better be able to go over here to your individual list,
right,
and take each one of those items, and they better average up to the same thing.
Is that right?
You better not miss a dollar, because the state board and the Federal Trade Commission will be right astraddle your shoulders.
Why is the funeral home industry so heavily regulated, Rick?
Because, years ago, funeral directors, there were so many different pricing in funeral homes.
Right.
There was funeral homes that was less expensive with merchandise, the same merchandise as the guy down the street would be more expensive.
Sure.
So they wanted to regulate to where that at least people was given a fair shake.
Right.
If they went in, they knew what they was paying for. Because back years ago, I remember, now, I've been doing this for a long time, 36 years.
Come on, Rick.
Yeah,
36 years. My Lord.
So,
since you were 2.
So, yeah, that's right. Since I was 2 years old. But I never will forget that. I worked for a funeral home up in Tennessee. And this guy, he walked in and he had 4 caskets. Now, this has been back, this was right when my son was born, and he's 30 years old.
Right, yeah.
So, I never will forget, this guy had 4 caskets in his casket selection room. And one was pink, and one was blue, and one was green, and one was yellow.
No.
And they was the same thing. And I never will forget, he had a big cigar, and he stood there and said, I said, what kind of price do you want me to put on these? He said, they like the pink and the blue better. He said, so let's start down here with the yellow. Put it 13, 14, 15, 16, 95. And it was the same identical casket. And that's the kind of practices that funeral directors did and made the Federal Trade Commission step in.
Right.
And it's so heavily regulated now that, our books are open at any time to the Federal Trade Commission.
That's a very good point. Yes, or the South Carolina, the licensing group.
That's right. We've got a state inspector here, Ernest Adams.
Sure, it travels all over.
Yeah, and he hits every funeral home, and he comes in and he goes through everything. And he may go in and just pull open one of your files and pull it out and look at it. He goes in your casket selection room. He wants to see if your casket, the casket you have in your selection room is the same one on your casket price list, because the Federal Trade Commission fixed it where now you have to have a general price list,
right,
a casket price list,
right,
and an outer burial container price list.
Okay, an outer burial container price list. What is that? What would that be?
That's a vault.
Okay.
All right, but if you go into a funeral home, and you ask to see it, the funeral home has to show it to you, no matter who. If you go into your competition's funeral home, they have to show it to you. Now, they have to give you the general price list for retention. You can ask for it to take home with you. They don't have to give you the casket price list and outer burial container price list to take with you.
Right.
All they do is give you the general price list.
Right.
That's open knowledge for anyone. So anyone that does want to look at different prices in funeral homes, go to the funeral home, walk in and say, I'd like to have a general price list.
A general price list.
A general price list.
Much like for community newspapers, we encourage folks to say, if you're a potential advertiser, you need to ask your community newspaper, whether it's the Herald or anyone else, give us your annual ownership report. We want to see what you do at the U.S. Postal Service so we can know how many papers you're actually mailing through the U.S. Postal Service and how many you sell in boxes and how many you sell in other places each week. It's a way to make sure everything's open to the public. We use the U.S. Postal Service. We're a heavily regulated industry, and of course you all are regulated.
That's right.
We have to be open to the public and make it a transparent operation.
Well, you was talking about Jim Beaudry. Jim Beaudry is the Batesville Casket Company. As far as I'm concerned, they're the largest casket company in the world.
Right.
Yeah,
you said that. A 54% market share in the U.S.
Yeah, and they're first class. And I'm doing a lot of business with him.
Oh yeah.
And
down the road, obviously, you'll be doing things with him down the road.
There's other people that's in this area that's worked in the funeral business that are salespeople now. That travels all over.
Oh yeah.
So that'll become friends with.
That Jim Beaudry superstar, and I saw his wife last week.
Oh yeah, we went
to the Mercy Hospice thing.
The Mercy Hospice.
The Mardi Gras event
thing,
up at Dynamite's Doc Holliday's on that Tuesday night. She was cutting a rug with the Band of Oz.
Yeah.
Shamalama Ding Dong.
Yeah, we was out there. Of course, me and Bonnie, we were shaggers. And
you and Bonnie, that's right. Yeah. Tell us about your wife, Bonnie, Rick. Y'all have a big week coming up.
Yeah. It's our 10th anniversary.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Rick? Wow.
And she let me know. Last night we was watching TV and she said, "Oh, it's fixing to turn Valentine's Day."
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Well, I'm sure glad." And I said, "Yeah, me too." And I thought, well, there just goes my billfold out the window.
Valentine's Day has a special significance for you, Rick.
Oh yeah, it sure does. We was childhood sweethearts.
Is that right? You and Bonnie.
Then I went to the military and left, and of course I, like most young boys when they go in the military, they go a little bit on the wild side. So
wow, not you, Rick.
So that was the end of our relationship. But then after 24 years, we got back together.
That's tremendous.
So I've been together 10 years.
This is your 10-year anniversary this Thursday.
That's right. This Thursday.
Wow, I bet Bonnie's planning some big things for that.
Yeah.
Or you are. That's
Rick
right.
better have them planned.
You're not going to let any secrets out on Carolina people.
Let me tell you something. If I don't have plans,
Yeah.
it just wouldn't be good around the
Yeah,
house.
that's right.
So that's what
right.
her plans
You may not have
are.
a Bonnie if you don't have any plans. Yeah.
That's right.
That's
right.
exciting. And of course, you all have children.
Yeah, four, and three grandchildren.
That is tremendous. Two are living here, and one of each of y'all's, and
two of
then
our
you all have a
children,
mixed family. Yes, yes.
Two of our children's living here. I have a son living here. He owns a construction company, and a daughter lives here, and she's an RN at Grand Strand.
Right.
And then I've got a daughter that lives in Augusta, Georgia, and she's with Windsor Jewelers, and then Bonnie's son lives up in Kentucky, and he's with Toyota.
Is that right? That's tremendous. So one's in Kentucky, one's in Georgia, two in South Carolina.
Right.
And your three grandchildren, where are they located?
They're here. They're here.
All three are here.
Yeah, all
yes.
three are here. The oldest one is my son Aaron. It's his stepson, Reed, and he's 12 years old.
But he's very much his son. I mean, they're very active
yeah.
together. Yeah,
You know, to see them two together, you'd think that Aaron was his natural father. I'm telling you what, they're both just
two peas in a pod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They aggravate me to death when they're around me.
Oh yeah. I believe it.
It's always, let's go fishing, let's go out here, let's do this. You got to come out here. I don't want to touch this fish. You got to help me get it off.
I love it. I love it. And Aaron has a daughter who's not much younger than Emma Claire.
Right. She's 3 years old, and so she's the apple of my eye, boy. That little granddaughter is.
Oh yeah.
Them boys is something else. Them girls is close to the papa's heart.
So they are spread out well. Holly, who's 3.
Caleb is 6.
And then Caleb is 6, and Reed is 12.
Mm-hmm.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
That's a good spread. 3, 6, 12.
Yeah. And we take care of Caleb a lot because Georgetta works such odd hours at the hospital.
She's a nurse.
Yeah.
At Grand Strand Regional Medical Center.
Yeah, and she's a good one too.
I heard that recently. I think Doug White, the CEO of Grand Strand, had some great words to say about her.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, she's a hard worker, does a good job. She cares about people,
Yeah, that really.
She was always raised around the funeral business. I mean, since I've had her since she was 15 years old, and she loved the funeral business. She loved anything to do with helping the people and anything to do with the funeral business. Mm-hmm. She wanted. Now, my daughter Alicia, why, she wouldn't care one bit to never have to walk in the funeral home again because she just didn't care anything about it.
Is that right?
But now, Bonnie's son Hoss, he's thinking about eventually moving down here. And then my son Aaron, he's a licensed funeral director.
Is that right? Aaron, the general contractor, the one with the Southern Construction Remodeling and Palmetto Builders?
He's a licensed funeral director, but I've talked to him about, I think he may transfer his license from Kentucky down here.
Is that right? That's tremendous. Well, Aaron, if the general contracting business changes at all, I'm sure there'll be opportunities for Aaron down the road.
Right.
Yeah. That's very exciting.